Night of the Eagle, released in 1989, is Jesus Franco's World War II film. I think it's a trope in World War II movies that one of the main characters has to really enjoy playing the piano, and that's what makes him an artist. Is that because the piano was one of the most highly respected instruments of the 1930s? In this scene, we see a contrast between the woman who is agreeing with Hitler and a person who is against Hitler and not sure if all these deaths are worth it. Even though you could say that this is very speech-like, we can't actually know how people talked about the situation back then, so this sounds accurate enough. She tells her father that she has been in bed with a man before marriage. And there's a conversation about what would you do when he dies in the war and you're left pregnant with a baby. This is actually a good scene talking about the realism of the situation of having a child with a soldier, what it was like back then when basically every man was a soldier. And her passion is singing, but something about a German person's accent when they sing, it never sounds hopeful, but that kind of works for this depressing scene where everybody's in bandages. It's like a depressing scene where a person is trying to be hopeful, but they just can't because you can't force hopefulness on a bad situation.
Don't close your eyes, Lily. Stop your dreams. Break out your gold.
Next, we see him in the army, and he's complaining about how his letters never get sent to Berlin, where his fiancée lives. This is another real situation that I don't often see in World War II movies that probably actually happened. His fiancée isn't present, he can still hear her music, and all the army men listen to his fiancee's music together, and it is a bit of hopeful entertainment for these men during the wartime.
Don't close your heart.
So the reality of the war is forced upon them, and they have to face it. They have to face the darkness of their situation. While she's making love with another man, while he's in the army, we see him in the hospital. Jesus Franco is really good at having a contrast with him not being with his fiancee while he's sick, making us feel more for the character, and we feel almost just as depressed as him. We get another scene where their wills collide, and she's singing happily until the guns start, and we get hit with the depressingness of his situation, contrast with her trying to make the best of the war. But of course, you can make the best out of a time that's just depressing. Next, we get a scene between her father and the man she wants to marry. Her father is proud that she's being a nurse for army, but the man he wants to marry is too worried about her might be getting killed. He prefers that he gets killed rather than her. This is a good contrast of morals, how the father thinks that she should be a nurse for army instead of singing for the troops. because her father always taught her to be tough, but he is concerned for her. And this is a great conversation to have in this movie about War II. Again, this movie is really good at showing all the real events and all the real conversations that might have happened during this time in history. Next, we get another scene where she's talking to a army man that is gay, and he's like, "There's nothing clear about being homosexual," and I guess she's surprised that he can still fight when he's gay. Like gay means something about being macho, but it really doesn't. This is also a great um showing of a real conversation that probably happened in War II, showing the dayness of the thinking of the time. The man she planned to marry is all bandaged up and is about to die. So as he's in the hospital, they decide to propose a marriage, and they're doing a life-changing thing as he's about to die. So their life doesn't get to change. It gets more depressing because they don't get to have happy moments together. And right after that, we see Hitler's speeches. This is a great way of showing how um, being in the Nazi army is affecting them, and how Hitler is making the world worse. By focusing on these two characters, we can see how Hitler affected Germany with related to these two characters in this relationship. But he doesn't die. He is able to be back into the army, and we see of him playing the piano again, having a rest with his art before he has to fight again in the army. So the movie ends with her seeing the destruction of the war, and right after she sings, and her father approves of her singing at the end because he realizes that that is a good purpose, her singing for the troops. This is a great way to end this movie because it's not a completely hopeful way, but is hopeful for at least one of our characters, which is a realistic and still kind of depressing note to end this story. And it treats this time period with respect.
Again, please do.
It's not my daughter.
Please don't.
But Walter, this is a new world. Things have changed.
Oh wait, he still disapproves of her singing, so this movie is even more depressing and still ends on an even more realistic note. So that is Night of the Eagle. This is actually a really good movie by Jesus Franco. It portrays War II in a very real way, with some moments of hopefulness. And it's good that they choose to focus on one character or two characters for each scene because it helps us to relate to this time period. This is actually a pretty good movie, and the fact that this movie has a less than a 4 out of 10 IMDb shows how a director's reputation can cover up their good work on a film. If I would rate this film, I would give it a 7 out of 10 because for some people it could be too sappy, but I would recommend this movie.